Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, it is hard, really hard to save for retirement, and the stats bear this out. Almost 1/3 of Americans on the edge of retirement have zero savings, and another third have less than a year's worth of income put away. And that's why it is doubly important that every dollar that someone puts away for retirement is protected. Many Americans rely on investment advisors for guidance on how to save for retirement. Most of those advisors have their savers' best interests at heart, but not all advisors put their customers' interests first, and that's created a hole that's draining $17 billion a year in retirement savings, money that's going into some investment advisor's pocket instead of into the pockets of the people who are trying to save for retirement. Thankfully, that hole may soon be plugged with the new rules that would require brokers and advisors to put their customers' interests first. So I have just two quick questions about this, Secretary Perez. So as I understand it, several studies, in many of them, most Americans don't even realize that their investment advisors, their retirement advisors, aren't actually required to put the client's interests first. They think that if they go to someone who advises them, that their interests will be first. So can you explain just very briefly, why is it legal today for advisors to steer clients into products that line the advisor's pockets while draining away the client's savings?
Well, we have folks who are operating under the fiduciary model.
Right.
Like we go to a certified financial planner.
Right.
That person is required to put our interests first. Very quick example. First thing he said to me was, keep your thrift savings plan, your federal stuff from your federal employment, keep it in the thrift savings plan. I can't do any better. That's an example of putting our interests first.
Even though he won't make any money from that.
He didn't make a dime off of that, but I've referred a number of clients to him because he looks out for me.
There you go.
So that's why it's good for business. The person who's under a suitability standard, again, there are a number of products.
Let me stop you right there. I get the suitability standard. What I don't get is how did it turn out to be legal? What went wrong? Why is that legal, Mr. Secretary?
Well, it shouldn't be, and that's why we're trying to change it, because I think the suitability standard is facilitating this misalignment.
When was the last time we updated these laws?
Well, we haven't updated our laws in earnest in 40 years.
Okay,
and,
so we've got a problem with outdated laws, loopholes in the laws, and that's how we end up with these two different standards.
Right, and again, we didn't think about IRAs and 401ks back in '75. We were in the defined benefit world. This stuff just didn't matter because people had a guaranteed pension.
All right, so you've proposed some common sense rules to try to close these loopholes, to try to update the laws, just to make sure that all advisors are putting the customer's interests first. But lobbyists for some of the biggest financial companies and some investment advisors are fighting this proposal tooth and nail. So help me out here, Mr. Secretary. What is it they're so worried about?
Well, I'll let them speak for themselves. I can tell you, I guess I'll say 2 points. Number one, I have been heartened by the remarkably constructive conversations I've had with so many industry stakeholders. And as I said in my testimony, there has been an undeniable shift toward a recognition of the need for the best interest standard. And then there have been folks who've been out there since the outset, Merrill Lynch and B of A. And then there are others who are coming to us absolutely wanting to get to yes. And those who are perhaps in a different place, they tell me that they would like to think that they put their client's best interest first now, and my response to that is, there's good news then for you. This will be easy to comply with if you are in fact putting your customer's best interest first. I think it is something that can be done. I hear from so many folks who are playing in this space day in and day out. We need a level playing field because people go to their advisor, and actually there are some advisors that are dual-hatted, depending on what part of the transaction it is. Sometimes they're a fiduciary, sometimes they're not. It's already confusing to begin with. That's stunningly confusing, and we need one standard, and it ought to be the best interest standard.
I love the one standard. I love the best interest test. I assume there are a lot of people, though, who are making a lot of money. That $17 billion is going somewhere. It's not staying with the retirees. So I got to say, this one seems like a no-brainer to me. Hardworking Americans who manage to pull together some money for their retirement should be able to trust that their retirement advisors are looking out for them. And besides that, the thousands of honest, hardworking advisors and brokers around this country who already put their clients first every day shouldn't have to compete against those unethical advisors who don't. I understand why we're in this fight. I understand there are people who are making money from keeping the game rigged, but we don't work for them. Time to level the playing field. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.